So we recently had the opportunity to pick up this old Sea King from Montgomery Wards. It's don't know how long it's been run. The last owner had it 2 years, and he has no idea how long the previous owner before that it hadn't been run. So the challenge is going to be go through this engine, and let's see if we can get it running. Before I start that, go ahead and click the subscribe button right here. Thanks. So a few of the things I'm going to do: make sure it turns over. I already temporarily added a piece of PVC to the pull handle. I'll show you that in a moment. It does turn over. I've tested that already. It's stiff and it's hard, but it does turn over. So I'm going to, first off, I'm going to take the plugs out and I'm going to spray some SeaFoam in there, and I'm going to turn it over by hand just to get a little bit of a lubrication in there before we go too crazy on it. After that, I'm going to check to see if it has ignition. Put a spark tester on it, rotate the motor. Again, I'll probably use a drill to do that, but we'll see if we got some spark out of it, and then we'll take it from there. One thing for sure is that we're going to have to clean that carburetor out of it. It's been sitting as long as it has. It's probably gunked up and would never start. So let me go ahead and get started with that. Before we start, let me cover a little bit of history on this old Sea King. Montgomery Ward had these manufactured for them. Of course, you know, Monkey Wards didn't really do anything like that for themselves. This particular model was built in 1975. I did the serial number research on it, and it was built by Chrysler. Now, the interesting thing is that the Chrysler motor, or Chrysler division that made these things, was eventually sold to Force, which was eventually sold to Mercury. So, in a sense, it's a Mercury motor, but really it was manufactured by Chrysler. Before we start spinning this motor at higher revolutions, manually I guess, or with the drill, there's one more thing I want to do, and that is I want to get some SeaFoam in there, because this thing's dry and it hasn't been running God knows how many years. So I've got the choke all the way open, and I'm going to open up the throttle, and I'm going to shoot some SeaFoam down the throat of the carburetor. And turn it over manually. Hopefully create enough vacuum to get some of that in there. Now I'm going to turn it over with the drill and shoot some SeaFoam in there. And the whole goal behind that is get some SeaFoam in there. That'll help lubricate bearings, crankshaft, as well as help loosen up any carbon that's built up in there. First thing we want to do is get these plugs off, and I'm going to get some SeaFoam in there. So the one in the back here is top cylinder, probably number one. Get the second cylinder off. It says a 15 horsepower. I'm actually really optimistic. I think this has a lot of potential if we can get it running. Plugs are out. What I want to do is turn this over, get some SeaFoam in there. What I would normally do is put a pencil or something with a soft rubber tip and turn the engine over till I had top dead center on, for example, cylinder 1, then spray it into cylinder 2. But these are in at a right angle, so that might be a little difficult to do. But I'm going to put my thumb over this. I can actually feel vacuum. Oh, I just felt it push out, so that means this should be close to top dead center, and the bottom cylinder should be retracted. So I'm going to get some SeaFoam in there. There we go. Turn it over a few times. And now I'm going to check for compression on number 2. I can feel the vacuum. There we go. Just burst. Basically pushed my thumb off of it, which means that it should be close to top dead center. So number 1 should be retracted. That one will be easier to get into. Alright, we're going to let this sit for about, I don't know, an hour or so. Just let it soak in a little bit. Then I'm going to put the plugs in, and I'm going to check to see if we have spark. Alright, it's been about an hour. I'm going to go ahead and put the plugs back in, put some spark testers on it, turn it over, and see if we got any spark. Go ahead and get that done. I do have this one pulled back, the bottom plug. I'm supposing it's number 2. It's so close to the cowling that a regular straight connector is not going to work. So this is just a basic test, just to see if we have something coming out of the ignition system. So I'm ready to see if it's got a spark test. I could try using the pull start. It's not very effective or efficient in terms of this testing for a spark. So what I'm going to do is use a 7/8 bit and a drill, turn the engine over, and see if the ignition gives us any output. If it does, we'll continue forward and start working on the carb. That'll be the next step. I think we are getting a spark. Top cylinder seemed to be intermittent, but with this kludgy setup, that's not a surprise. I actually have the spark plugs loose, so it could be an intermittent ground. But it is putting out juice, so I think we're good to go. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get that carb off, put it on the bench, and start working on it. So getting these nuts off of the bolts for the carburetor is going to be a challenge. One neat thing about this carburetor, there's no linkage that's hooked up to it. There's actually a cam that's operated by the throttle, and that cam actually operates the carburetor. Now there is a choke that's attached to it, so let's go ahead and get that off first. Alright, that's off. If we can get those nuts off. Alright, so we finally got the carb off. A little bit of work. This rod right here looks like it's bent from somebody really cranking down on it, or not quite sure what they did or why they did it, but we got something we can work with. We're going to go ahead and take this apart, clean it out as best we can. Alright, now that the carburetor has been cleaned, and you can see how we did this in this video right here, I'm going to go ahead and get the carbs on and start prepping this to get it started. What we've done in the meantime is replace the starter rope. So let me go ahead and get the carburetor on, and we'll go ahead and start with the new startup. All right, so we've got everything back together. The carburetor's on. I actually put the fuel line back on, which you didn't see earlier. I've got this funky looking little connector for the gas tank. And we've tested for spark. The spark plugs are tightened up, wires are connected. So we're good to go. Let's give it a shot and see if we can get this thing started. All right, here we go. Choke's on. Bulb is primed.
Nice trying.
SeaFoam. Well, we got it started, so that's great news. We got to figure out if water pump's working or not, if the impeller's pushing any water through it. I'll take some temperature readings on it. Probably check the gear case fluid at some point. But all in all, it's a success. We got it running. It was kind of a great surprise towards the end there because I didn't expect it to start. But if you enjoyed this video, please hit share and like, and most of all, don't forget to subscribe. Just hit that button right there. Thanks for watching.